Hello, can you guys hear me? Yeah. Can we all settle down? I think they're ready to start. So everybody who's sitting behind, can you guys come thoda aage so I feel like I'm talking to people and not chairs? Who took out the time to be here today, welcome. We're really happy to have all of you here at GeekyAnts. And we're just extremely excited to welcome you to the React Native and the Flutter Meetup that we've organized for you today. So a little something about GeekyAnts. I'm not sure how many of you would know, how many of you don't. For those, so we are a product and a services company. We've been doing this for a little over 10 years now, where we develop applications, both web apps and mobile apps for all of our clients from all over the world. Apart from that, we also have a lot of products that we've developed for the community. The word community being imperative because we are a people first company and we like to learn as we go and also showcase it to the people in the community so that they can learn from us, and at the same time, if possible, they can teach these things to us as well, right? So that's pretty much the idea behind doing these meetups as well. As you know, everything in the technology industry is continuously changing, and it's extremely difficult to keep yourselves updated and abreast with everything that's happening. And to ensure that we learn, we do these meetups and we also attend a lot of conferences. We try to speak at them as well, and if possible, we also try to invite other people who we can learn from as well, right? So having said that, welcome once again. This is going to be a hybrid meetup, and this is going to be a little different because unlike all of our other meetups that we've done in the past, where we've spoken about all things React Native and Flutter, we have bifurcated this into two segments. We will have the first segment, which will be all things React Native, and we'll have the keynote speech by Shivraj, followed by a couple of talks in React Native. After that, we'll do the segment which is all things Flutter with the keynote by Pushkar, followed by a couple of talks in Flutter. This will be a hybrid format. A few of our speakers are going to be joining online. They could not join us in person, and the rest obviously are going to be here. You'll be able to see their faces, interact with them later. After that, we have something really special, which is a sneak peek of all of the things that we are doing at GeekyAnts. So usually, we love to experiment. You might have seen the poster outside that you're in the company of mad scientists. Scientists love to explore and love to experiment with a lot of things. So having said that, there are a lot of things that we're building, but usually until it goes live, it's only the people inside GeekyAnts who know what that's about. So, in a very small segment in the end, we also want to give you a sneak peek of all of the new things that we've been working on here in GeekyAnts, and you guys will be the first ones outside of GeekyAnts to know about it. So, yes, that is pretty much it. Now, I've been rambling for I think a couple of minutes, but you don't know who I am. So, I am Vaishali Anand, and I've donned a couple of hats here at GeekyAnts in the past 4 years that I've been here. I started off as a React Native developer myself. After doing that for a little over a year, I moved to the business side of things and sales and development. Business development was something that I was working on. After that, my current stint is that I head all things social and community here at GeekyAnts. You can connect with me on Twitter, where I post a lot of useless stuff. So maybe in hindsight, I think LinkedIn might be more appropriate. And yes, if any of you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, this is the password, this is the Wi-Fi name. Please do so. Tweet about us, tweet about everything that you're saying. If you think something is really insightful, if you think there's something nice that we are speaking about, do tweet about it to tag us. If you think something is not worth your while, please don't tweet anything about that. Having said that, we have an amazing lineup of talks. But before I get to that, I would like to welcome our CEO Sanket on stage. He has a few words for you.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Bashari, for the nice introduction. I see a few new faces. Good to see you all. I'm expecting a lot more people to come by 3:30, I guess. But we have a lot of online audience as well. So hello to everyone. Uh, Real quick, I'll just go through what this meetup group is all about. So React Native Bangalore, it was started almost 6 years back, and now it's the world's largest meetup React Native meetup group. So and we have seen a lot of great things here, like great lineup of speakers in the past, right from companies like Razorpay, Geo, Myntra, Flipkart, speaking all things about React and React Native. Then we also started the Flutter Meetup group, which was really, I mean, just right before pandemic. I think it was in 2018 or somewhere around that. And we saw great speakers from the Flutter community as well coming together and share their knowledge. We saw Mobux.dart, for example, that was announced here on the stage. We saw a few other things by great community speakers here. So I feel really good about that. Okay, the change starts here from Bangalore, from this little hall, and we have seen a lot of great minds. So I'm really happy about that. We have tried to do our part here at GeekyAnts, and we have seen a lot of people in the community come together and build this entire React Native and Flutter Meetup group, which is amazing. So yeah, let's rock and roll. There's a few code of conduct. Try to keep your phones on silent and use the breaks to interact with people. Breaks are super important. Talks are equally important. And I want to thank all the speakers who have prepared well for today. And yeah, stay kind and humble to everyone and spread knowledge, spread love. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanket. We love that, when any event happens at GeekyAnts, whatever the context, Sanket always never forgets to tell people to stay kind and stay humble. So I think we have a lot to learn over there. Yes, and I see a lot of people have showed up, and it's really amazing because how everyone, all of us here in this room, woke up today and decided that we have nothing better to do on a Saturday afternoon. So we'll come and learn about all of the new things happening in React Native and Flutter. But jokes apart, I think we have a very informative afternoon planned for you. And here is the agenda. So, for the first speaker of this afternoon, I'd like to call Shivraj on stage. A very quick anecdote about him. So, when I started off, when I had just finished my training, I remember that the first project that I was assigned to, I was supposed to report to Shivraj. And I remember that, it's like you've been taught the alphabet, but you don't know how to write anything, not even a sentence. But then you've been asked to write an essay. So that was the first day of the particular project for me. And unfortunately, that was Karnataka Bandh on that day. So I was doing everything remotely. And this was pre pandemic. So we had no idea how to do things online. And I remember asking a bunch of stupid questions to Shivraj. कि इस particular task को करना कैसे है. But I think he took it very sportingly. And I would love to think that in the last 4 years, both of us have come a really long way. I am here, and Shivraj is leading a bunch of much more competent developers here at GeekyAnts. So let's welcome him on stage.
Thank you, Vaishali. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to React Native and Flutter Meetup. Yeah, so let's start. So myself, Shivraj Kumar. I am one of the Associate Director of Engineering here at GeekyAnts. I have been associated with GeekyAnts for around 6.5 years now. I joined as a fresher and continually working here. So yeah, let's start with what we here to do, the state of React Native. Okay, so I think the first half of 2022, that is the last couple of months, has been very exciting for React Native. We had a lot of things coming in. The much awaited new architecture arrived, and a lot of people have been using it now. And it has brought in a lot of capabilities to the React Native. At the same time, I mean, in the last couple of months, in the first half, in the last half of this last year as well, the focus of the community has been on accessibility as well. So that is a pretty huge thing that people are focusing on that. Hermes is by default now compatible with React Native. I mean, we don't have to specifically look for compatibility version. Compatibility it comes bundled with React Native now. So we'll resolve a lot of issues by default there. Yeah, recently we had a release of React Native 0.69, with which comes with React 18 support. That means we have concurrent mode now. We have hooks, a lot of hooks support, that is use ID, use transition, and all. So that is something that is recently released. If you're talking about React Native, we definitely have to talk about Expo. I mean, Expo has been building a pretty huge ecosystem around React Native for a long time now. So these are some features that released last year and the early this year. ES build system, config plugins, expo modules. These are something that, I mean, earlier we had this uh, difficulty that when we had to install native modules with Expo, that was very difficult. There was no support. Now with ES build system, we have the capability that okay, with config plugin, we can use any of the native modules with Expo. So that has been brought up, and because of which I think the ecosystem is hugely popular now. uh, Recent release development builds. I mean, we had this right with the expo that with QR code scan or with a link we can open any application that is built on expo. Now with this ES build capability, we can make our own application like any normal application that we build with bare React Native. I mean, let's go Expo Go. So if we are building any app, it will be like any app Go. We'll have our own bundle together. Some recent release ES updates, similar to Expo updates or the code push that we had. We have the same thing now with ES system. New CLI, which is local, which is completely bundled with our project that we hold. So we have a lot of capability at the same time. It is, I think, 4x faster than the older CLI because it is completely bundled in our local. Expo metadata is something which is very new. It is at the beta stage. This is something I think I'm excited about a lot. I mean, when we have to update our application or we have to put in our application to the App Store, Play Store, we go through a lot of configuration or information that we have to put in. I mean, we have to put in a lot of information, for example, the app name, the description about it, or even the images that are required. So Expo metadata brings in that we can do it at the local project level itself. We can put in all the data. Uh, I mean, we can just push the data or all the information with just CLI, and the export team will kind of review it. I mean, the review process as well for the App Store and Play Store is a very lengthy process. If we have a intermediate where people would see, okay, this is the information, the correct information, or the wrong information that needs to be put out. There are some missing information that would help us a lot, right? So metadata is going to do that. It will tell us whether some information is missing or not, or if something needs to be added. So this is still in beta stage at the moment. Yeah, but pretty good thing that is coming up next. Recent release, Flash List, I think, which is going to be a replacement for Flat List. We had a lot of issue even with Flat List in terms of performance. I mean, even while scrolling a lot bigger list, right? So recently, Shopify released this Flash List, which is very performant and kind of replacement Flat List. Skia is a big thing that came out recently. I think this is going to be a very popular thing, and at the same time, we'll be building a lot of things around this. I mean, ultimately, we get a canvas around it, right? So we can build any kind of 2D graphics with it. So people are building a lot of good stuff with it. Along with that, I mean, combine reanimated with it, and you can bring a lot of inputs to this. So yeah, that has been what's the update so far. Now that the new architecture is released and people are focusing on next thing that the community is focusing on is many platform vision. Many platform vision being not just mobile or web, but also desktop or VR system, right? So the ecosystem that Expo is building or the new feature, I mean, new package that we have now, Skia. With all this, I think the ecosystem is beginning to go towards that vision, that many platform vision. So I think, yeah, we'll in the next couple of months or the second half of the 2022 is going to be more exciting with this vision. So yeah, that's about the updates from React Native. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Shivraj. That was really insightful. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to him after the second talk that we have. I think we're going to have a break and you can pick his brain on all of the new things that he's just spoke about. Our next speaker is going to be joining us online. It's a talk by Saurabh Kumar where he will be speaking about results with the new React Native architecture. So yeah, let's call him on stage. Bhushan, you can call him on remotely.
Hello, shall I start? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Saurav Kumar, software engineer from GeekyAnts. In today's meetup, I'll be talking about the React Native new architecture, which is in place and making buzz all around the world. So the talk will be more like a technical analysis where we will be doing the comparison between the old architecture and the new architecture on basis of several parameters such as app storage, app load, and app build time. Also, at the end, we'll be discussing on some key highlights like lazy loading of turbo modules, how we can create our own custom turbo modules, and the next generation view manager, which is called as Fabric, which is only possible with this new architecture which is in place. So yeah, let's get started. So the setup for building any application, React Native application with this new architecture is very simple. Just we have to enable this new architecture. If we are going with the iOS build, inside the iOS folder, we have to run this rct new arc enable equals to one wala command. And for Android, it is even more simpler. You have to just go to the Android folder, and inside that you will just locate this gradle.properties file. And at the very bottom, you can see this uh, boolean property which is named as new arc enabled property. By default it is set to false. Just toggle it to true so that you can use the advantages with this new architecture, because it auto enables turbo modules on Android and iOS, and it auto enables Fabric on iOS and Android by enabling these boolean flags. I want to highlight one point is that if we are going with the latest React Native builds, latest versions, then we have to enable this property, and the auto enabling of turbo modules and Fabric will be done automatically. But if we are going with the older build, let's say 0.68 or so, we might have to update the Gradle version. Also, we might have to manually enable the turbo modules and Fabric on both Android and iOS, which is a kind of complicated thing. So with the new architecture, it is very simple. We just have to enable this thing. So while drawing the comparison between the old architecture and the new architecture, it is very straightforward and very simple. Just we have to enable this boolean field. Yeah. Next, coming on to the analysis, the parameter over here is build time. For building a very simple application with the old architecture, the build time is comparatively low as compared to the new architecture. It takes around 2 minutes and 23 seconds, as you can see. But with the new architecture in place, building the same application, the build time is usually longer, and this time is due to the compiling of some native C++ code. It roughly takes around 43 minutes and 34 seconds. So here we can see a big difference in numbers between the old architecture and the new architecture. As we'll go by the official documentation, we can run this yarn React Native run Android with added argument like active arc only. So it will ensure that your build time will reduce by a factor of 75% approximately. So we can go with this command. And it is still in experimental phase, so that by the next stable versions we can decrease this build time to somewhere around it matches with the old architecture. So that's all about this build time analysis. So next, coming on to the storage analysis. So for building a very simple application, the app storage is comparatively less in old architecture. Like it takes around 75 MB. But building the same application with this new architecture in place, the app storage is very high. Like it takes around 106 MB. So the storage is also very high for this new architecture. Now coming on to this Fabric renderer, JSI, and scroll analysis. Now the problem with this old architecture was that it was using a bridge-based architecture, which means continuous to and fro serialization was happening via JSON. So it might lead to some slow data transfer rate and unnecessary copying of data. Another drawback of this bridge-based architecture is that the communication was happening asynchronously, which means that events are not triggered in if events are triggered, it is scheduled for its execution. Now let's imagine a situation where we have implemented a flat list with a data set as huge as 1000 list items, and we are continuously doing the scrolling. So each time a scroll event is triggered, its execution is actually is, scheduled. It doesn't happen real time. So the disadvantage over there was that with the old architecture, that before the actual rendering happens, there was some white glitch or some UI glitch used to happen. But with this new architecture, we have now they have replaced the bridge based architecture with this new JSI based architecture. Now both synchronous and asynchronous communication tag can take place, which means that all the synchronous actions can be triggered and executed in real time. While drawing this comparison between the old and new architecture, we have built a very simple application. As you can see in the screen, it is a very simple application with a flat list implemented. Like the data set for comparison, we have kept the list items to be 1000. uh, to be honest, like with the new architecture and the old architecture, there was not a very significant change which we observed while doing the analysis. One thing is that during the scrolling with the new architecture, it was getting the scrolling effect was smoother as compared to the old architecture, which was glitchy kind of thing we are getting. So while building the application, you can see that uh, it will straight away say that running app name with some root ID tag. And with the new architecture, since we have enabled the new arc enabled value to true, so it will enable Fabric, which is the next generation view manager which it uses. So yeah, that's all about this Fabric renderer, GSI, and scroll analysis. So now going on to the lazy loading of turbo modules. So this is kind of a big advantage which we are getting over this new architecture. So earlier with the old architecture, what was happening, we have to preload everything. Like the native modules were getting preloaded, so that was increasing the app boot up time, which was very devastating for that. With the concept of turbo modules, we don't need to load the native modules beforehand. It behaves in a synchronous way in JavaScript and lazy load into memory, allowing the app to start faster. So with this new architecture, it requires interfaces specified in a type dialect of JavaScript. We have to create our own JavaScript specification that should be in a strongly typed language. Like if you are comfortable with TypeScript, you can create the specification in TypeScript, or if you want to go with JavaScript, you might have to integrate Flow with that. So CodeGen will use these specifications to generate code in strongly typed languages. So in the next slide, we'll show how we can create our own custom turbo module and integrate with the application. So yeah. So as I told that over this is a place where we are doing this new arc enable set to true. So it is inside this gradle.properties file. And this is the place where we are creating a JavaScript specification. JavaScript specification is nothing but you are creating the interface, what your turbo module should be looking like. The reference has been taken up from the React Native official documentation. We are creating a turbo module which is just doing some kind of a simple addition. It takes up two numbers and then sum the value and return it, so that we can use it in the our application. So this is the place where we define the JavaScript specification. It should be in a strongly typed language, which means it should be written in TypeScript. So it should look like this. So this is the interface, and the proper implementations should be written. The proper implementations should be written in native code. Inside, for Android, we have to write it inside Java, then subdirectory com folder. And we have to create our own file. We have to create one. We have to create the proper implementation of this, like what this interface should be doing. 1 second. So yeah, Now we have to add this dependency, we have to add this module to our dependency, and we can straight away use it. We can import this dependency and we can start using this module. So this is a very straightforward example where we have showcased that how we can lazy load the turbo module. We don't need to load it beforehand, we just need to load it as and when required. So yeah, next, going on to the next analysis, the app load time analysis. This analysis is very important because if any for any mobile application developer or for any organization, the app load time should be very minimal as it increases the user experiences. Let's say if your app is taking so much time, then you might end up losing your customers. So this app load time analysis is one of the major analysis part. So while doing the comparison, we have taken a very simple application built using a very fewer components like loading spinner and text boxes and all, and the same application we tried building it within the old architecture and the new architecture in place. So the app load time for old architecture for building this application was around 1.2 seconds, whereas for the new architecture it has decreased to 0.86 seconds. So we are getting a performance benefit using this new architecture in terms of app load time. So the possible reasons are firstly being the lazy loading of turbo modules. We don't need to preload everything like location, Bluetooth, camera, and all those things. We have to just load it as and when required. And the second reason is that, as Shivraj was mentioning, that hums will be set up as a default engine for any React Native application in the next React Native rollouts for as a part of new architecture releases. So we have this hums also in place, so that increases the app load time, that decreases the app load time. So yeah, now we have come to the conclusion of this talk, where we have seen that there are some disadvantages with this new architecture in terms of app load, app build time, and app storage. But as going with the official documentation, some experiments are going on, and by the end of this year, as they say that 2022 will be the year of React Native new architecture. So by this end of this year, we can get some more clarity like how it is performing on basis of storage and app build time. But as of now, these are the two parameters which are like being defeated in terms of comparison with the old architecture. But the with the new architecture, we are getting some benefits like app load time has been decreased, and lazy loading of turbo modules, the fabric view manager, and all those things. So yeah, that's all. Thank you for this. Thank you.
Hello, hi Saurabh. Can you
uh,
hear me?
Hi. Yeah,
That was an amazing talk. Thank you so much.
thank you.
It seems like you put in a lot of effort into it, and I love how you just kept going. You knew what you wanted to talk about, and I think it went really well. Also, wanted to ask, was this your first talk ever?
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it.
Okay.
And I think this is very commendable how supportive his family is, because if at all I would be giving a talk remotely, I think somebody from my family must have been shouting in the background at one point of time or the other, or there might be some whistles from the cooker that you might hear. So great going, Saurabh. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we are ready. This is pretty well timed how this is going. We have our next speaker who's also going to be joining us online. We will have Rajesh Day, who will be speaking about performance in React Native. So let's get ready to welcome him as well. Hello, Rajesh.
Hi, Vaishali. Good afternoon.
You all set? Over to you.
Yeah, all right. So, myself, Rajesh Day. I'm software engineer at GeekyAnts, and I'm working for like 1 year so far in GeekyAnts. Today, I'm going to talk about performance on React Native. It will be like a kind of mix with something like new things, something in details, and also with like very basic things that we do know, but sometimes maybe throughout the development, like we do kind of ignore it or like kind of push it backwards, and that can take a hit later at the development. So let's begin. So the first thing that we'd like to talk about, I think Shura also mentioned, is like like flat list, right? Which is very optimized kind of component compared to scroll view that we get from React Native, and it's been quite the norm, and like kind of like every one of us, like all developers, like use it throughout, right? But at the same time, while using flat list, we have experienced some of the like perks at few scenarios. Recently, while I was working on a project, like I noticed that whenever we are kind of rendering a flat list starting with a non-zero index, then sometimes the component above it are not mounting all the time correctly. So that is kind of set up a drawback that we don't generally expect from flat list coming from like React Native. Then we start to kind of like explore other things, like what are the other solutions that can actually help us to go through this problem. Although like there are lots of there are lots of other things that we can implement on top of flatlist to kind of improve its performance a lot. Some of the props that I'd like to mention is like remove flipped subviews. So what it generally does is uh, like in a huge list, we like what scroll view does, like scroll view kind of like mount everything, right? But flash list does keep a limit number of items mounted on the like on our app, and kind of remove everything which is not required. So we can pass certain values based on our requirements on the app, like how many items we want to keep rendered or mounted at the same time. Based on those values, like it's kind of unmounts the unnecessary components. So that improves like our performance on flat list a lot. So next come to the like flash list that Shiraz like earlier mentioned. So it's a kind of like new kind of component that recently released, that is kind of like build and it's very simple. Like almost everyone like who has used flatlist can directly relate to it because its API structure is very similar, right? But I guess like, I think you guys can notice like one prop over here, that is estimated time size, estimated item size. So what they are like our Shopify like flash list kind of ask us to kind of provide a certain value. If you can predict like as close to as the like the total number of elements, total number of items in the list, then it helps the flash list to kind of pre-calculate like how much it want to re-render or how much you want to like unmount or mount while scrolling fast. So and one more thing that we generally do like while developing React, that whenever we are like mapping over lots of data, we do provide key prop, right? And why do that? Like we say that we want to kind of tell React that like these are the unique set of elements, and even React throws some kind of like warning if we don't do that. But in flash list, we have to kind of remove it. So there is a very key difference that I want to mention between flat list and flash list. So what flashlist does, so flashlist does not rely on like unmounting the component that is way beyond your screen view. It keeps only one view, only one component like active, and it just alters the item prop. So while like it just don't like go through that mounting and unmounting processes that flatlist goes through. Instead, it just kind of like changing the new item in the same component that is being mounted. So it kind of does give lots of performance boost. So talking some kind of like figures that they kind of like are providing is, we are getting lots of like FPS benefits in UI thread and as JS thread. And I think like this is pretty impressive. Like for a large list, it's great. Moving on, one of the things like I think we even see in lots of the like articles that you can see like when we do kind of like on some kind of click handler, we declare like inline functions, right? And maybe we don't realize that, okay, like it's fine, like my component is not getting slow or something like that. But I've set like a quick example like to show how it actually affects. So over here we do have one like parent component called app, and in the child component we have a button. And when you are clicking on the button, so definitely we are like updating the state in the parent, So that definitely will prevent the whole parent component, correct? But we can see in the console log that we are getting the log from both the parent as well as the child component. But from the UI point of view, you can see like there is no need for the child component to be rendered again. Like it's just a static component, static UI component. We are not even passing the data to it, but yet it is rendering. So we have to be very careful, like when we are doing something like this in a in our in our projects where our child component can be very heavy. Then we must ensure that we do not pass like all inline functions as props. So what is the way out can be, right? So definitely what we can do is we can memorize the function using use callback, as well as if we need, like we can use memo the child function. So it's a kind of like same example, but here you can see as we're clicking on the update button, it's updating the state in the parent, but we are not getting extra re-render in the child component. So in case of heavy child component, this is great. Now it's come to like image optimization, right? So we do use lots of like assets, pngs, jpegs. Some of the assets like are kind of in local data, like in our local, and sometimes like it comes from the like some server url, right? And those do take time, sometimes like time, based on like how heavy they are and like how big they are. So our target would be to kind of use as small as possible. There are ways by which we can actually mention the size and the width, and also maybe if possible to kind of download only that resource from the server if we have certain options on the server to kind of fetch specific like resolutions images. But if but beyond that, there are different ways we can do it. On web, we know that it's quite simple, right? Whenever we kind of face some assets, the assets is kind of like cached. That also depends on the headers that we do pass, and it also depends on the headers that how long that item will be cached on our like browser before requesting it again from the server. So on React Native, we can actually achieve something like that. There is another format which is like wasn't there much early back there. Like one is WebP. So what WebP does, like its quality is like almost as same as like JPEG, but its size is like very less, like around 25 to 30%, 34%, like less size compared to JPEG and PNGs. It does support both lossless and lossy compression modes. And the good news is from iOS 14 and higher, it is available. Like Google had it like for a long time, but yeah, like on iOS, it's possible now. So coming back to like caching images, what we can do is there is another package called React Native Fast Image that we can use. So over here, what we can do is like we can like just pass the URL of the like whatever the image that we are want to show, and it does have certain like props which kind of leverage some more features to it. One is definitely the priority. Sometimes maybe we have a long list, and the chances are less that user will scroll to the end of it, and there might be some kind of like images that we are showing. But as we know beforehand that chances are likely less to kind of user to scroll past lots of few items, we can set the priority of those items to low, and can set higher priority to the items that will just show up on the screen when you are kind of going to the next page. It also supports a preload feature where before even like going to the component, when the loading starts, if we know that these are the set of images that is going to be the next pages, what we can do is we can preload these images. So what fast image will do, it will kind of fetch the data, it will cache it in the memory, and whenever user will go to the next page, it can instantly show it. So that improves the UX a lot. Yeah, we should talk about Hermes. And yeah, now like Hermes kind of like would be like by default integrated on React Native. But I guess there are lots of projects, like maybe some old projects that do not have Hermes, and maybe we haven't activated it. But I think it's a great time like where we activate it and see its improvements. So what it does basically, right? Like, so it's a like a JavaScript engine that is kind of like helps to kind of improve performance in like low end devices. So what Hermes does is like it it had included lots of like garbage collection procedures, and so which helps like kind of free up memory and also allocates like virtual memory, like virtual access to when it needs, and also release the memory when was really needed. Sometimes we had faced earlier that due to this problem where our app cannot release the memory, so OS actually kill the app, right? But this will really help it. It also has included removed the JIT, that is a just-in-time compiler, to like ahead of time compiler. So earlier, I will show you like kind of a graphical representation what it does. So you can see over here, the parsing and the compilation is kind of occurring like in the build time. That definitely will increase the build time a little bit, but will reap up the benefit when we are like launching the app. So after install, when like user will like launch the app, it will already have everything converted in bytecode and parsed, right? So it kind of like improve the like app starting time, the boot time, like a lot. So here we can see that a very like a stock React Native app, like the TTI kind of like increased, and like APK size has been decreased, and also memory utilization has decreased a lot. Yeah. Coming back to style sheet. So over here, it's not too obvious. Like we do declare styles like this, right? Apparently, it might seem that, hey, like what's wrong over here, right? We can declare styles like this, but the thing is that we need to kind of know that whenever we're passing like objects and arrays in the props, so it is kind of like uh, reinitializing, like I mean it's kind of recreating the objects on each renders, so that might take a hit a little bit on our performance. Instead, what we can do is you can use the style sheet from React Native, create a like object, and use that reference in our style props. Yeah, there is one use case where maybe we need to depend on some kind of user data or some kind of like navigation state based on which we want to like change the styles. In those cases, yes, we have to use some conditions and rely on state. Then we cannot always use reference. But most of the cases, I think like it's pretty much like very easy to kind of fetch everything from like get everything from style sheet. Yeah. So we when we generate build for like both iOS and like Android, we have noticed that this app size is an issue on Android, right? So there are ways by which we can actually reduce the app size a lot. One of them is like using app bundle. So earlier, like what is to do, like maybe we used to just create one universal APK that will include all the architectures, all CPU architectures, and that's why it becomes huge, right? And you should like upload that APK on Play Store. But now what we can instead what we can do is we can use like app bundle, and you can upload that app bundle. So app bundle will not include all those architectures, but those architectures will be integrated on their like Play Store end. So the size can be like reduced, can be reduced drastically. Like with an universal APK, I think it takes about like with a very like stock React Native app would be like around 25 MB, and like with just creating an AP, you can see like we can reduce it back to like 3 MB. So that's a like huge benefit, and we can achieve that very easily just using this command. It's just simple as that, and we will just will it will generate a .av file, and you can upload that .av file to in Play Store. Another is like resource shrinking that we can do. What it will do, like it will kind of like minimize and like kind of remove unnecessary resources from our app. We can like just include the string resource true on our like app build.gradle, and it will just kind of process that during our build time. Enable ProGuard. So what ProGuard does is like it kind of obfuscates. Sometimes like we would like to kind of prevent or make things difficult for anybody who's trying to like reverse engineer our code. but it also kind of remove some of the like code that is not mapped and that is not being used in our code base. So this is the like a program profile where we cannot just remove everything. Like we cannot allow to kind of program to obfuscate everything in our code base. So some of the things that sometimes like we are using like Hermes, JNI, and those packages will mention that these are the rules that we need to kind of set in program to prevent obfuscate those files. Otherwise, something might break up. So this is one of the things like we need to kind of take care of it without just enabling a program directly. And so coming back now, what things like when you kind of like develop one like app, we got some features, we released it, and maybe our client is saying that, oh hey, like our app size is like too large, and then we don't know like what is kind of taking so much space, right? So we can use some kind of like a bundle visualizer. One of the like great tool is like React Native bundle visualizer, what we can use. So we give the bundle and we kind of like give the bundle and it will analyze it and it will give a kind of GUI where you can see which package is taking how much amount of space. So that really helps you kind of understand if you have included a new package recently and that is taking up or like adding up extra space or kind of taking up extra space in your like final bundle. And maybe you can work on that or like remove or find some alternatives to that heavy package like that is being included on our project. Last but not the least, that this one will be like console log. I guess still like most of us like use console log. Like yeah, it is recommended to kind of use some kind of debug tools or like debug points. But yeah, like sometimes we do like quickly put console log and check like what is going on, and we do tend to like forget to kind of remove it before pushing the code sometimes, right? There are ESLint rules that kind of like keep us warning to kind of remove it, but I guess the best way would be to kind of go with a simple Babel plugin. And this Babel plugin is just kind of like very easy to set up. Like you just install it, just add the plugin in your Babel config, and done. So what it will do, like it will automatically remove all your console logs from the production build, and like I think then we can get the benefit of both of the, like both the world. And coming back to performance monitoring, there are different tools available on the market. One is like Sentry, Firebase performance monitoring, and some other tool like Instabug. So why performance monitoring is important? See, I would say that we must know like how our like in a like a big app, it's not always possible to kind of go through each one of the like each of the screens to kind of see any kind of visual differences. But if we are using any kind of like monitoring tools, then it will help us to kind of understand like why we are kind of like why some of the screens are maybe lagging or kind of dropping maybe some UI like some UI threads performance, and this kind of give us the insight and help us to kind of act on it properly. I will show kind of like a report that I got. So this is a screenshot from Firebase, Firebase performance tools. Over here, you can see one of our like API response time that has been become slow in like maybe last 7 days, right? And it shows that it has gone down by like 4% slower. So now, with the benefits of having this kind of visualizing tool, we can really understand where exactly our flaw is. Like, is it occurring on our front end or is it on your coming from the back end? Maybe it's taking time to kind of fetch the data from the server. So I guess we should always like use some kind of performance monitoring tools to kind of have better insights and then act on it. Yeah, I think that's all from my end. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. That was brilliant. Rajesh, quick question. Have you heard of Biswa Kalyan Rath?
Yeah, I have.
Do you get that a lot that you look like him?
No, this is the first time.
Okay, my bad. But then, jokes aside, I think this was a brilliant talk. And Rajesh, I know personally that he's working on a pretty difficult client project. So I know it gets very daunting to find out the time to prepare the slides and prepare the talk and get started with something like this. So kudos to you, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us remotely. I hope next time it will be in person.
Sure, sure.
Okay, all right then. I think after a couple of talks, you guys must be a little tired, must be a little restless in your seats. So we have a break now. Go outside, have a little bit of refreshments, and we can come back here for the Flutter segment. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. So now that we're back from the break, I think we're right on time, and we are all set to start with the Flutter section of today's meetup. The Flutter team, I think, vibes on another level. It doesn't even have to be the GeekyAnts Flutter team. I think we have a couple of GDs from Ahmedabad, right, over here. And before the Flutter section started, they wanted us to keep this here on the stage. So, okay, all right then. So, I think we're all ready to start. Let's welcome Pushkar on the stage where he'll be giving the keynote speech. Over to you, Pushkar.
Hi, hello everyone. I am Pushkar. I have been associated with GeekyAnts for almost 5 years now. Before I start, I mean, how many Flutter developers we have here? Okay, a lot of them. So I expect that almost all of you would know what Flutter is. For someone who have just no idea what Flutter is, so basically Flutter is everything what React Native does. It's a cross-platform framework to build beautiful UIs, but across multiple platforms like iOS, Android, web, Windows, macOS. Since Flutter 2.0 launch, there has been a lot going in Flutter ecosystem, and a lot of updates has come, and all of these platforms are now under stable support. So since Flutter 2.0, the ecosystem has grown so much that now every day more than 1000 mobile apps are being published to App Store and Play Store. Other than that, a community is using web and desktop separately. Not just that, even on pub.dev, we now have more than 25,000 packages. So pub.dev, for people who don't know, it's basically what npm is for JS. Then in like around 2 months back, at Google I/O, Flutter team announced Flutter 3, and since then we have more than 5,600 pull requests that has been merged. And as a result of it, there has been updates for Flutter 3.3, and this includes basically all the refinements and performance improvement which was launched in by Flutter 3. So these updates basically includes across frameworks, packages, dev tools, extensions, and a lot of API improvement. And the changelog, when I was going through the changelog, I mean, there were so many changelogs that I cannot just compile down everything within say 10 minutes talk. So what I have done is I have just compiled some very important key points. So the first one is the global selection event. So people who have been working with Flutter Web, they know the pain of even like basic say default behavior what you would have in JS frameworks. So something like as simple as selecting an element was not possible earlier. So now they have introduced something called as selectable area. So you can just wrap it on top of the scaffold, and then that becomes selectable by default. Now from Flutter 3, lot of material design 3 components were being imported, and the same has continued even in Flutter 3.3. Now updates to Go Router. So once Flutter went into stable for web, desktop, Windows, one of the instant issues that developers were facing was we did not had any universal navigation libraries, and then they came up with navigation 2.0, which was like instantly rejected by the community because of the complexity that it had. So Flutter team came up with Go Router. It provides universal declarative APIs for universal navigation across all the platforms. So there has been further updates on Go Router as well. Now, the another very important update is the raster cache improvements. Now, what is this means basically is, so earlier, suppose if you have an asset image, there would be like multiple copies of that across, say, native heap memory, and through the native heap memory, through the method channel, they would again copy that onto the Dart side, and as a result, there will be like multiple copies of the same asset images. So now they have come up with a new API where they can directly buffer it from the asset and can load it at the Dart side. So overall, the performance has improved a lot. And the major improvement, and which everyone is talking about, is basically the Impeller new graphic engine. So in the latest version, Flutter 3.3, especially in the master branch, what they have come up is they have a significant rewrite of this existing rendering engine Skia, and they have replaced it with Impeller. Now the question is, why is there a need of an impeller? So they took that decision around an year back. So I think all Flutter developers, they are aware about a weird iOS jank issues, right? So for the first time, essentially what happens is, say for the first time when you are loading the app, you will see a slight jank in the frame. And the reason for that was that the existing rendering engine Skia was not compatible with new hardwares that are coming through, such as a new graphic APIs such as Metal on iOS and Vulkan on Android. And also the current Skia rendering engine, it requires say shady compilation. So what shady compilation means is that suppose at runtime there are like set of instructions that needs to be executed onto the graphical processing unit, and and we need to tell them that, look, we are going to do certain type of animation, so you need to be prepared for that. So that shady compilation needs to be done once every life cycle of the application, and these shady compilations would take almost like 100 milliseconds. And for us to achieve, say, silky smooth animation, that needs to render or get completed within like 16 ms, right, or 60 fps as we say. So the difference between like the 100 ms that a shady compilation takes in order to get executed on the graphical processing unit, and the 16 ms, there would be like a lot of frames that get missed. So the first time you will see that jank animation, and it is very frequent even in very famous applications, even till now. So what they have done is they have come up with this application, and they're asking developers to come up with the feedback of how the impeller, the new graphic engine, is working out. With Flutter 3.3 also came Dart 2.18. There has been too many changes, lot of updates that has come in Dart as well. I have just compiled some very like normal and some very important ones. So the first is enhanced interoperability. Now, last year in March 2021, they came up with this intro for C, and then internally we experimented with that, and now they're extending that same support to Swift and Objective C as well. Other than that, now we have improved type inference. So we already have a type inference in Dart, but there are like a lot of generic functions within Dart. So what they are doing is now they are moving those and giving that support for time inference to different generic functions as well. Then pub.dev improvement. Now, if you are an open source contributor and you have your own libraries, then you can go ahead and can basically ask for support and funding if you adhere to certain license criteria. Then null safety updates. Now, since null safety was introduced, like lot of packages are now moving towards sound null safety, and this has been what the progress we have. Within GeekyAnts, we have been working with Flutter since its inception, when it was in beta. So we started experiment with it, and there are a lot of open source contributions that we have done. So you can check that out on the GeekyAnts GitHub page. However, even the pub.dev, if you search geekyants.com, you'll find a lot of libraries that we have created, and all of them are very, high quality. At least we have like more than 100 pub points for all of this. Some of them are very famous as well. For example, Flick Video Player, that came out as a part of an experimentation, and please check those as well. Other than that, we can get started with our talks for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pushkar. I think you shared a lot of information which was new for everybody, a lot of seasoned developers included. So, huge round of applause again for Pushkar. So now we have the last speaker who's going to be joining online. We have another talk as well. We have a lot of other things as well. But I know that, speaking to remote talks are not the best thing, but this is going to be the last person who will join remotely. So can we have Aditya Kapoor joining us, and he will be talking about the creation of interactive live streaming to your Flutter app to improve user retention. Welcome, Aditya.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello everyone. I'm Aditya Thakur, developer advocate at Flutter, and I'm really excited to be here today and talking about how to add live streaming to your Flutter apps to help improve user retention. We at 100ms provide live video SDKs and APIs to help integrate audio and video into applications. And today we would be breaking down live streaming and interactive live streaming for you. So other than that, I have experience creating videos on YouTube. I have around 7K subscribers and have previously been a speaker at Flutter Vikings, the online edition this year, and the Flutter Global Summit. Beyond that, I have a community of developers of which we are close to 1,000 members on there, and we like talking about Flutter a lot. So through this session, I think one of the major takeaways in this would be like how can you start building your own applications with live streaming enabled in it, and how can you ship products that would maybe somewhere benefit you when you're working as a developer at some company. So that would be the takeaway from this session. And starting right off, as a community organizer or as someone who has worked with the people in the community, one of our goals is to enable discussions online, like we allow people to talk, allow them to have conversations while also be somewhat stringent against preventing malicious or other unwanted activities as such. So over the last 2 years, as communications like this hybrid meetup went online, we have seen like 300 million people use meeting platforms like Zoom and other such participants join in on these platforms. So Zoom had over 300 million meeting participants per day in 2020, according to Business of Apps. Even more people would move online in the future, like there would be remote jobs that are available. Almost one third of the worldwide organizations have turned towards web conferencing and they have gone remote. There are webinars and live events such as this one happening online where 89% of hosts agree that webinars are a better platform to showcase and grow their business. Also, connecting remotely has gotten easier, and there could be a chance you might want to build something similar with Flutter, like apps or web apps where you have to integrate live streaming or video conferencing inside your applications. So, by interactive live streaming, what is it that I mean? So, there are three different types of live streamings that we define at 100ms. The one is the full duplex audio video in real time, something like Google Meet or Zoom, where you're talking to another person. You two are the only ones on the call, and you can interact with them, talk to them, maybe send them a message. Then the other ones are where the level 1 participants are talking to each other, while level 2 participants join in as sort of a webinar. So this could be compared to a Zoom webinar where there are initial hosts on the video call online, and then there is an audience that is majorly able to only interact with the host through chat or such. So this is a webinar style audience in real time. Both the first and the second level can be enabled by WebRTC as such. But there is also the third one, which is live streaming to a larger group of audience, or scaling to millions of users, and this is done using HLS. And this is our level 3 audience. But we wanted to make it interactive, like we wanted to have people join in and interact with them, while also enabling scale, like while also having people while also making it possible at scale. So that is what we do. Recently, we launched the Livestream SDK on Product Hunt, where it is now available. But in this session, we'll get started by enabling HLS live streaming inside your Flutter app. So if I'll go back to my code editor for a bit, I've created a new Flutter project. This is a simple one. Like I went over to my desktop and created a new sample app, Flutter create sample. And the first step that you can do is add the HMS SDK for Flutter by running the command flutter pub add HMS SDK. So with that done, you can come over to a Dart file, and I wouldn't be live coding in this session because over time delivering sessions, I've noticed how dangerous live coding could be. So this would just be a sample introduction over the top, and I would use a pre-built sample for this. So the first step is importing the SDK that we would be using. So HMS SDK that is available for Flutter. You can go ahead and import it and initialize it. So for starting streaming, we'll initialize the SDK. We'll need to build it and also add a listener that would listen for the participants joining in on the call. And after that, we can join a room. It would need an auth token and a username, which I would be talking about in a second. And lastly, you can call the join function and it should join with the given configuration. And we can start HLS streaming by calling HMS SDK and .start HLS streaming. So that should that should enable live streaming inside a Flutter application. And this was just a brief overview given the time that I have today. But if you want to go further into HLS streaming, we might also want to build out a better UI for everything that we do. And for that, we have a example of live streaming. So it's also available on Play Store to try out. But to give you a demo of this, this is how it would look like. So the app opens up to a button to join a room, and where we need to put in the streaming link that we would be using to stream in, and then give it a name, and we can get started with our live streaming app in Flutter. So this is completely built in Flutter. We've used the camera package, and we can go live in an instance by clicking on the go live button, and that should start the HLS streaming for us. What happens with HLS is, like, behind the scenes, what we try to do is we have a bot join in our room and stream what it sees and hears. Once the feed is ready, the server will give the URL, which can be played through a HLS player. So that should make it easy. Like inside our Flutter application as well, we have a bot join in that should take this feed and it should provide a link which can later be played using an HLS player. Going further, we can also disable this stream by clicking on the end stream button, and the app is also available on the Play Store to try out. But on the 100ms dashboard, if you log in, you can always create new, and using this live streaming starter kit, deploy a live streaming app. So this should ask you for a URL, and you can pick out a name, server, region, and click on continue. And you can deploy app with the default roles for now, which is broadcaster and HLS view, and go to app dashboard to get the developer configuration, like the app ID and token endpoint for your application. Now, I'll remove this project after I'm done, so please don't use the same endpoints as this. Now, going a bit further, in Flutter itself, there are a number of use cases that we can continue to target. The first is a meetup like this that can be built using 100ms and something that live streaming can help you in. The second is, of course, healthcare apps that make it easier to interact with doctors and other such people online. There are other use cases in education that would help you, building apps that also scale. There are a lot of startups that are already working in this domain, and that is about it. So, if you have any questions, I would be happy to take them up during this session.
Hello, Aditya. Can you hear me? That was wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. A round of applause for Aditya as well. I think what you spoke about was very different from whatever all of the different talks that we've heard today, Aditya. So that was, I think, a very welcome change. Also loved how fresh the slides looked. And I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure if you are also aware, but 100ms also happens to be a client of ours. We've been working with them for almost 2 years now. Did you know?
No, no, I wasn't aware about that.
Okay. Yeah, so we've been working with them for a lot of things. In fact, interesting stuff that we also happen to build a Twitter Spaces clone with 100 ms using NativeBase. Yeah, so be sure to ask your teammates about that and maybe check out what exactly is it that we did. I would like to welcome Sanket. I think he has a few questions he would want to definitely ask you.
Sure.
Hi, Aditya. Great. I
Hi.
think I can see. Okay, great. Aditya, so how is the integration with, like, now you have support for Flutter as well?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you're the right person to answer this question. So how is the support compared to React Native versus Flutter for 100 ms?
I think I may not be the right person to answer that, but I can get back on that. Ask my team around with more details and get back to you on that. Until then, I would recommend checking out the documentation because we have both for React Native and Flutter. I haven't really worked with React as much, React Native, but would definitely like to answer that.
Yeah, interesting. Because I think we use the React Native SDK, so just wanted to compare the same thing. And now we are building a Twitter Space clone in Flutter, so wanted to use 100 ms for that. So maybe we'll chat later after this.
Sure.
Okay.
Feel free to reach out on Twitter. It's Aditya Thakur XP
Sure.
there. Okay.
Yeah, Aditya. All right. Great. And I think we have a question from the audience. So hi, I'm Sunny from Zeshmani. Yep. And I want to ask if 100 has SDK. I mean, does that package support web and desktop? So I'll repeat the question, Aditya, for you. If yeah, so the package, does that support web as well, or is it just for Android and iOS?
I think there are some changes we are working on with the package that it does not support as such. We're also working on an update for Flutter 3 because there is this clear pull request that we are waiting on from the Flutter team, but it should be available soon.
Okay. All right. Is there any other question? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have another question from the people who are watching this online.
Yeah.
They want to ask that using whatever Aditya was talking about, is it possible to get transcript while live streaming?
Is it possible to get transcript while live streaming, Aditya?
Um, it I'll have to check on that as well, but
Okay, no problem, Aditya. I think that's totally fine. Yeah, we can check out the documentation and then probably get back and reply to that person later. All right, I think that's it for now, Aditya. Thank you so much. I'll hand the stage over to Vaishali and we can get over to the next talk. Thank you so much. Yeah.
thanks.
So we have the last talk now, but then we have a lot of amazing other things also lined up for you. The sneak peek that I was talking about. After that, there's also going to be a panel discussion where I hope people fight tooth and nail and finally decision aaj ho hi jaye ki React Native is better or Flutter. So for the next talk, let me welcome Vishal Singh on stage where he'll be talking about platform channel. It's such a long topic. You describe.
Hi everyone. I hope you guys are not bored with the online thing. I can start with a joke if you want. React Native is better than Flutter. We will let the panel discussion guys decide which is better. I can't see. Okay. Uh, it is visible. Okay, cool. So, hi everyone. I am Vishal Singh. I am a Flutter developer at GeekyAnts. I have been working here for last 2 years, and previous to that, I have also worked on a native Android. And in Flutter, I have tried to cover all many aspects of Flutter, like offline support, app enhancement, and integration of native SDKs. So with that, I will be explaining you and showing you demonstration of two apps. One is a very simple timer app that uses platform channels, and another is a real-time application. Just wait for the last slide. Okay. Before we start, what are platform channels and why we need them? So, in simple terms, you can understand like platform channels are used to communicate your native with dart side. And you can there are three types of platform channels. One is basic message channel, one is method channel, and the last one is event channel. So basic message channel is you can send messages in the form of binary encoded form, and the thing is the message content must be compatible with the Dart side. On the other hand, we have method channels. So with method channels, you can invoke native side methods. You can pass arguments, and I will show you in the later slides how we can do that, more about it. And the invoking is asynchronous. So next is event channel. Event channel is used for stream. So we can stream the data from native side to your Dart side. And let's start. So this is first. I will show you the what structure I usually follow to integrate any third-party SDK. So there will be a Flutter app, and in that I will be using a plugin that will be added to the pub spec. So how the Dart SDK will be connecting to the native side. So we have, as I said, method channels. Using the method calls, we can invoke the methods at the native side. And then for streams, like if you're listening to some method, here in our case, we'll be listening to the timer app. It will be countdown to 10, 9, 8, 7. So it will be streaming that data. And the streaming data is binary encoded, then it is decoded. I will show you the methods also that does this. And for method channel, we have the interface Flutter method channel that we use for iOS host, and method channel for Android host. Similarly, for event channel, we have Flutter event channel, and we use Flutter stream handler also. It's not in the diagram. And event channel for Android host. So this is the basic sample first application. So you can see it's a timer app. It's just filling the screen with the time, and I can pause and play it. So there are start and stop methods that I'm invoking from the Dart side. Uh, let's see the code. This slide is of no use. It is it is just added for the React Native people who are getting bored and they are not able to understand anything. So they can see the ping pong here. And time's up. So let's flutter. Okay, so a bit of code part. First, I will show you how to do that in the Android thing. So there's a small Android icon, and next slide it will show iOS icon, so you can understand it is Android and iOS. You can understand by Java or Swift also. Okay, so first we are implementing two interfaces, that is Flutter plugin and method call handler. Flutter plugin provides us with two overrides: on attached to engine and on detached from engine. So on attached to engine is invoked when Flutter plugin is registered to Flutter engine, and it is the second one, on detached from engine, is invoked when it is just right from the Flutter engine. So we will be defining the method channel and event channel in our on attached to engine, and then registering using set method call handler. You can see that I have created the method channel handler. I have passed the get binary messenger that is used for the binary encoding, and there is a key, the timer app. Same use for event channel also, timer event channel. You have to use the same key so as to connect with the Dart side and in the iOS side also. Okay, and then to register this event channel, you need set stream handler method, and it gives you on listen and on cancel methods. I have created an object at the top. You can see event sync. So I'm like setting the value of event sync to events, and this event sync is used by the event handler. You can just use the method event sync dot success or event sync dot error to stream the data. And then there is on method call method. This is the method where you will be invoking the native side. So if you see, there is a case start. So basically you will match, you will use the same key start on the Dart side. I will show that code also. And you can pass the arguments. The arguments must have also the same keys. For primitive data types for strings, this is fine. Like you can just pass the data and use it. But for custom classes, you might need to convert it to JSON, and then on the from the Dart side, you will convert it to JSON and pass it. Then here also you have to convert the JSON into the Java class or Kotlin class, whatever you're using. Then there's the timer function that is, I don't want it to bore you guys with the logic of how the countdown timer is working in the Android side. So I skipped that. And there is result or success, that is to acknowledge that, okay, you have invoked the method. And there is one more thing, result not implemented. So it is for like if there is some key that is not there and you're just trying to invoke it, so to handle the error. And this is on the iOS side. Same, we have implemented the Flutter plugin. And event channel handler, I have created a class for that. I will show you that too. Before that, there is the register method. You can see we are using the same key to register the Flutter method channel and the event channel handler. This is the event channel handler class. It extends the Flutter stream handler, and there are more methods. It actually gives you on listen and on cancel only. I have created a success and error method to just make it more easier for me to use in the classes. So you can just create an object of event channel handler and pass the key, and then use the success and error methods. Okay, cool. Then the handle method, it is similar to the on method call in the Android side. Here we will use the keys to like start and stop, and the arguments to like the total time argument where you will be passing the data using the same, and the result is to acknowledge again. This is the Dart side, the plugin side, not the app side. These methods we will be using the app side, the start and the timer, listener, all these. In the plugin side, we have first defined the method channel and the event channel, and then we are invoking the method with start, and like start is the same key, and total time is the argument. In case if you are using the custom class, then you need to convert it to a JSON here only. So you have to do the serialization and deserialization. Again, then the event channel, it's a stream, so we are listening to the broadcast stream, and the timer listener is nothing. Just I just created a class to make it more easier for me to use in the Flutter app. For that will give me on success and on error method. So just to pass. And yep, before I start this, I want to know you that this was the simple app. This was the timer application that I created. So it has just a basic overview of how platform channel actually works, and there is like what more application is there. So you might be having Android SDK or iOS SDK already with you, and you don't want to like rewrite the code. So you can just use method channels to use the methods of those channels. I will in the next slide I will show you. There is an SDK, comment chat SDK, that is a chatting SDK. So it provides you with it has multiple SDKs in different languages. It has one with Flutter also, but they have not yet implemented the calling feature that I will show you in the next slide. That's why I have just put that one, because they have not made that. Okay, so this is how we can use it in a more advanced way. The app UI is okay, and the right screen is the right screen is a bit blur. Okay, skip. You don't want to see my yep. So the blur screen is useless. You can see the prettier one. It's on the other side. So this was how I integrated the SDK, and how I have used it to implement the calling feature. I have implemented other features also. So this is I'm saying like Flutter is new. It's not something that is for quite past time. So there might be features that they are in native side, but they are not in the like your Flutter. So you can write some native code and integrate it with Flutter. For this, I have written 2 articles also. You can just scan this QR or follow me on LinkedIn. I can post the articles there, and you can just scan it and read the articles to know more about it, how the comment chat is implemented, how Flutter activity works, and all that. So basically how Android screen is rendered into this. Yep. I have one more slide after this, but I will go back to that one. Give you guys. I can see Sanket coming. I will leave. Thank you, Sanket.
Especially that I'll go and root for React Native. Just kidding.
Okay.
Okay. Very nice talk, Vishal. I have some questions about using native views inside Flutter. Like this is using the channels,
Yeah.
the data part. Can we have native views as well?
The last one which I showed, the video call one, it is the native view. The video call thing, the pause button, all these things I have not integrated. I didn't make that. It was in the SDK.
Okay.
So,
but that's I think that was a problem way before when I spoke to I think Tim Smith. that integrating like native views inside like two layers of Flutter, it's difficult. But
Yeah.
I saw something came in last year
Yes.
that's native views or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that possible now?
So it is possible, but I might feel like sometimes I feel that there might be a difference. Like you can feel the difference. Like the screen is switching from Flutter to Android. Even if you will see this one, if, I don't know you guys noticed or not, there was a white screen came up. That was not part of the code. It just comes up.
Okay. And that reminds me of Google Maps integration inside, like as a Flutter widget, not on the overlay.
Okay.
Is that possible today?
I have not tried that.
Okay.
Need to like explore it. Most probably, it must be possible.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, you should not feel that difference
Okay.
when it is coming from your app to the Google
Yeah.
Play or
Okay.
Google Map or whatever.
Makes sense. I think I'll keep this question for the panel later.
Yeah.
Because this is an interesting part. Great talk, Vishal.
Thank you,
and
thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. Okay. I don't know. This talk somehow reminded me of a slide that we always have in our induction. Don't marry a technology. But looks like what's the fun if you don't, right? Great. I think we are done with the talks. We have some lightning talks, couple of them, and we'll be like sharing what we are doing with Flutter at GeekyAnts. Couple of projects coming along, and one of the projects that I am personally working with, Hasnain, is we are rewriting NativeBase for Flutter, so we're not biased. And yeah, over to Hasnain. Please welcome him. Yeah.
So before I start, I also want to start with a joke. First of all, hi from my side and hi from Dash. Those who don't know Dash, maybe they need to explore. Okay, so a joke. First thing, please do not underestimate me because that's my mother job to do. And okay, I was not expecting the laugh, but you guys got it. But and the second part is it's almost 5 o'clock in Bangalore, and I still process my mind that why it is called rush hour, because in Bangalore doesn't move in the rush time. Anything doesn't move in the rush time, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure. It's already presented, right? Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So, hey everyone. My name is Asnan, and I work here as a Flutter engineer. I just joined 1 month back, and I started working as a full-time Flutter developer. I'm working with Flutter from the beta stage, and yeah, I was just experimenting, but now I'm working as a full-time Flutter developer. That's my Twitter handler. You can go ahead and follow me. Uh, Today, I'm going to talk about NativeBase. Most of them sitting over here might be knowing what is NativeBase, but who doesn't know? It's a design system and a component library, which is well known in the React Native and React. I also got a chance to explore this in the last hackathon, which was done by NativeBase. And finally, I got a chance to work with a NativeBase in Flutter. So we are doing a couple of experiments to get to know what could be the helpful side of NativeBase in Flutter. So yeah, I will be sharing what we have done till now, and maybe at the end of this talk, I can take an input from Flutter developers whether this is going to be useful or not, or maybe what can we add as a in a Flutter ecosystem. Right. So Sanket made a tweet about we are experimenting NativeBase into the Flutter, and there's a couple of code snippet. And what I love about the community is we have not even started yet, we have not even published yet, and people are like, we want to contribute, we want it as an open source. So that is a great thing about the community, right? So as a Flutter developer, I want to okay, this is not visible. There's a button over here, and as a Flutter developer, I want to have an outline button, right? And I need to write this much line of code to have this button rendered into a Flutter. And I would say this is a pain for a Flutter developer to develop such buttons, such small button, and we need to have this done implemented every time. Yeah. So yeah, this is the as I said, this is the button, and we need to write this much line of code to get implemented into the button, and this is so bad for rapid development. But in NativeBase, this is the line of code, and you get the same button. So it's obvious that we need to have such kind of thing as a Flutter developer to do a rapid development where we don't need to write those line of code again and again, right? So this is what we are trying to do in the Flutter, because again, Flutter doesn't have a library based ecosystem where a Flutter developer will go ahead and search for a library where they will have such rapid development. Flutter developer or the developer who are working with Flutter will always work with the material or the Kubernetes library, because since that is not accepted, or that the ecosystem is not there in the Flutter. But yeah, this is what we are trying to do, that just putting a variant over here as an outline, and we get the button outline right away. So it's just like changing a variant from different variant. So I have a small video which I will show. So this is what we have done right now. We have a NativeBase app, and inside that we can have our own theme injected. So it's not like we are overriding a material-based theme, but we are giving a developer that they can use a native-based theme as well as a material theme. So they can use both theme throughout their app, right? So now you can see we have both the theme available. The one is native-based theme, and that is injected into the context, whereas we have a theme which is material-based theme, which is also available for the developers to use it. So there is no constraint to use material theme as well as the native-based theme. So we have both into the context, into the widget tree. Right. So this was I was talking about. So I want to change a variant of the button, and I just say it to solid, and I have a solid variant right away. If I want same way, if I want an outline, the outline variant is available. Now in Flutter, if you are a Flutter developer and you want to change it, you need to use a new widget. Let's say a text button or an outline button, or maybe a elevated button. So these small things are so much painful for the Flutter developers to change things and make it work. So maybe having these things as a native, like what NativeBase is trying to do, will really help for a rapid development. Also, if we want to change a size, we always need to change a padding inside the button, or maybe we need to wrap a container with a padding to change the size. But over here, if you just change the token of the size from LG to SM, and your size will be getting changed right away. Right. So this was all about the Flutter. We also have a cool packages from the GeekyAnts available on GitHub, and those are open source. So I would like a Flutter developer to go and explore, and they can also have a great contribution to the Flutter packages. Like as Pushkar mentioned, we have a Flickr video which is quite famous and which is doing very great. Same way we have many other packages. So please go ahead and explore those packages, and you can go ahead and contribute to the that's all from my side. And if you have any questions or you have any additions that we can add into the NativeBase, I'm ready to take up and we can discuss on it.
Thank you so much. Hassan. Yeah, great work. I think it took about a week for you to get that API up and running.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I think that's it for now. We'll have the questions later in the next part. Okay. Yeah. Next, we have Ruchika coming on stage, and she'll be talking about the Twitter Space clone that we built in Flutter. I'm not sure about the backend, what we use. Did we use 100 ms or not? She is here to talk all about it. So over to Ruchika. Yeah.
Hello everyone. My name is Ruchika Gupta, and I'm an engineer at GeekyAnts. Almost I have completed 5 years in GeekyAnts, and I have been working around mobile and web technologies. Today I'll not go into the technical details because already we have lots of Flutter code and React Native code. So today I'll be just showcasing you one of our application that we have created at GeekyAnts, Speak Up. Before starting that, I just want to know that how many of you are Twitter users here? Like, okay. Yes, Sangeet, I can see you. As a Twitter user, you will be agreeing with me on a fact that almost all the tech communities that we are seeing are most active on Twitter. So, if you have used the Twitter application, so you must have aware of about the Twitter Spaces. So, any one of you like be a part of Twitter Space, or you have hosted any Twitter Space? Nice. Sangeet, I would like to share you what is exactly Twitter Space and how it works.
So it's like going live with voice only without the video. So yeah, I think and
Yeah.
people can join it. Whoever follow me on this.
Exactly. So it's an online forum where you can just host any of the topics, and other users maybe they can use as they can join your talk or your space as a listener, or they can be a speaker. They can just raise a like request to the host, and you can be a part of speaker as well. So I'll not be going into the technical detail. I'll be just doing a online showcasing you, and we'll be playing this application live for you. Being a developer, we should respect the fact that कोड प्रोडक्शन में ही फटता है, तो अगर if anything goes wrong, we can start up again. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen. Yes. So I had to share my two devices, but I had to share my screen as well. So I would like two people from crowd who can help me with demo and who have the SpeakUp app installed in your device. Yeah, Vishal, you can come up. Yeah, Pushkar, you can also come up.
See, I'm very important for this meetup.
Okay. This is a landing page, and this app is developed in Flutter. And if any live space is going on, you will be seeing a list of all the spaces here. So what I'll be doing, I'll be creating just a space for you. So let's discuss Flutter here. This space can be of two type. Twitter give you only public space, but like in GeekyAnts, we are doing lot of work on that, and we have added enhancement to Twitter space as well. So we are giving an option to create public as well as private spaces. So if you're creating a private space, you can add any of your known user, and you can host this space internal to your organization or be a like closed meetup type. And but if you are going to a public space, then it will showcase everything. It will broadcast the whole space to all the live users, and they can just have this space. So let's create this space. Okay. Yeah. So it is creating a space, and it will create a stream of event that will get broadcasted to all the users, and all the users who are live, they can have this space like in their application. So yes, I can see Vishal have joined this space. What about you, Pushkar?
Just a second. Setting.
कोई बात नहीं होता है. Let's go with Vishal. I think today Vishal is lucky for Flutter. Yeah. Okay.
I have joined.
Yeah. So you can see that I'm the host, and I can see that I have chatting option. I can go and I can do live chat with all the people's live there. So if I'll send hi to uh, as a chatting message, then Pushkar and yeah, so they are also chatting with me. The next feature that I want to showcase is if any of the listeners wants to showcase or wants to have like add any point, they can just raise a hand. So can you guys please raise a hand so that I can add you as a speaker? Yeah. So I can see that Pushkar has raised the hand, and this is up to host that they can go and approve the speakers, or they can just reject it. So I'll be going and I'll be approving Pushkar's hand. Okay. Now next comes to how this works. So I'll be starting the talk related to Flutter, and I'll just mic the open. So this is live streaming only, and this is the audio configuration that we are broadcasting. And yeah, I'll mute it. So I have approved you as well. Yeah, you can talk. And no, you can. Thank you so much. And same goes with any of the speaker. I can just approve them, or I can just if anything is going wrong, then we have created one report a speaker feature as well. You can just go and report, and accordingly we can take action. Whoever is hosting, they can just see the logs and they can just take an action over that. So this is what we have created, and all the live, whatever is live going on. Okay, something. It seems like this is the last talk, right? Okay, I don't know what is going wrong. Okay. It's not coming. It's fine, you can go. Okay, so this is the whole application that we have built. It is shared, right? Yeah. No, this type of sharing actually. This one. Man. Good. Okay. So this is like you can go and you can just go and into your application as well, like the space, and it will like off that particular stream, and whoever is the part of that stream, they can just complete that stream. So this is the application that we have built, and this is still in development phase. But we have created a build around that, so you can just go and download the build, and you can use the application. It is only supported for Android currently, so you can just go and download and just share the feedback. And if you have any questions, then you can find me in the crowd and we can talk on more on that. And for your surprise, Sanket, this Twitter clone is created using 100 ms SDK in Flutter. So their Flutter community was quite active. So we had few questions related to them, but they helped us out, and we created the whole application using 100 ms SDK plus using Firebase subscription. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much. ऐसा अच्छा तो नहीं लगता है Flutter का ऐसे तारीफ करके, because React Native is the only framework I never properly learned, and I'm going to stay loyal till something better comes along. But yes, so having said that, I think this is something that should just share, as a testament to everyone, the power of community and the power of learning with the people as you go. I remember Ruchika she was doing a lot of great work in Flutter, even I think 3-4 years back when once Flutter was extremely new. Nobody knew about what that was. It was just a bunch of people, but she was doing a lot of amazing work, and she was invited to Flutter Live in London. And recently also she did a lot of great work regarding Web3, and she did also a lot of other things which took her to Dubai as of recently. Apart from that, even for Hasnain for that matter, so I think he used to attend a lot of our meetups and conferences, and he used to be a speaker over here. And I would love to think that all of this knowledge sharing that we did forced him, or rather inspired him, to join GeekyAnts. So now that he's here as a part of our community. So yeah, huge round of applause to both of these speakers. We'll break quickly for another 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll come back with the war. This is something that we'll call the panel discussion for now. But then, yes, so you guys can go enjoy yourselves, and then we can come right back over here. Thank you.
together. So I'll try to stay as unbiased as possible. Please settle down, everyone. Yeah. We have 5 people joining for the panel. Let's welcome them one by one. So we have Suraj, and we have Ruchika and Hasnain. Please come on stage. And we have Aditya as well. Aditya, please come. Yeah. Great. Let's have a quick introduction for all of you. You can say your name and what you do. Maybe pick a side if you want.
Pick a side.
So yeah, we can start with
Why
Aditya.
starting from me? Can you please start?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think I have been already introduced. So I've been working with React Native, so I'll be supporting that.
Supporting that or supporting what's right?
Not really. I'm Suraj. I'm working with NativeBase team, and I don't know I'm supporting anything, but I'm going to talk about React Native most. Yeah.
So I am Ruchika Gupta, and I'll be definitely supporting Flutter today because we have the audience as well.
Hi, I am Aslan. Most of you know I am supporting Flutter because I am a Flutter developer.
I'm Aditya Balwani. I work at Grow, and my main part there is with React Native. So I know how terrible it is. Today I'm not going to support any of them because I have worked with both of them and I know the pain points of both. And I feel there should be a line where the next person can pick what's right for them rather than fighting a war that this is the best framework in the world. I don't support it.
Yeah, I think I go by that idea too, and I really like even like what Suraj said,
Yeah.
right? Like not here to support anything in particular, but learn from each other. I know it feels good to be India and Pakistan as a thing, but and we have learned a lot of things from both the frameworks, and we are now implementing. Like Flutter was actually inspired by React, and then there are great things happening in Flutter. For example, the ski engine that Flutter uses now it's available in React Native. So I think it makes sense to learn from each other and not really fight and stay unpolarized. Okay?
Yeah.
Great. So I have a few questions. The first question is about the support of web because Flutter and React Native, especially Flutter, they root that okay, this is the thing for universal apps. So how is the support of web in React Native and Flutter? So let's start from this side.
Yeah, I think with React Native, I mean, as soon as the React Native came out, the support for React Native Web as well, I mean, the package itself from the community, it came out. And people have building a lot of stuff with it. I mean, even the Twitter, I mean, we have that build on React Native Web and it's a platform where we use it in web and mobile of both places. So React Native Web has a very huge support and the community is great around that. So yeah, we have that.
Yeah, so having same code base for web and mobile, that's the amazing idea. So we have support for React Native on web, thanks to React Native Web library. So using that, we can write our React Native code, we can run it on web as well. So why need for that? We already know the need for running React Native code on web platform, as most of the users are from the web and they use mobile browsers to run their web application. So we have support for that. This has some pros and cons that I think we'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Okay, so in Flutter, Flutter was trying to create an ecosystem around across the platform. So for that, they created a support for web as well. But depending on the use case that what exactly we are trying to build, then only we have to select Flutter Web because as we know, like all the basic APIs is available in Flutter Web. Also, if you want to go ahead with common website and some user interface, then you can choose web for sure. But if you are trying to create some data loaded website which need high performance and maybe some kind of dashboard which have to deal with millions of data, so for that, I think performance-wise, Flutter Web is still in progress. We don't have like much API to support that. So for basic application, we can go ahead with Flutter.
I guess I have an experience in both the platform to work with the web part. Flutter team says that Flutter web is stable and it does work. It's not like it's not working at all. It does work, but it has some problems like SEO problem, a high loading time, and most of the pub.dev package is still not supported.
but I'm not going to give a plus for the React Native Web because I had a horrible experience with web when I was working in that hackathon. Maybe maybe the Mandeep knows what was the problem we had, and we had to switch our idea during the hackathon at almost like we spent 5 hours and then we changed the idea. So yeah, those are the issues still there in both the platforms.
Personally, I think this vision of saying that the code base is shareable, which is from React Native and Flutter 2, and I have seen many companies feeling that okay, we can achieve it, but it's terribly hard because still there are many platform differences which are not covered by both of them. I think React Native Web is good, but for mobile web pages, not for the desktop web pages, because even the API React Native gives us, it is terribly forced. I think if someone knows it, the flat list or scroll view aren't that good on web actually. They have many differences, and it has accessibility issues too. I think which there has been a recent issue PR going on. It has issues with SSR, CSS, many things. For Flutter, I think it's a joke to be honest. Uh, it's canvas rendering, and so you won't have SSR, you won't have SEO, which is like most of your web pages. Without it, your business can't run. No matter how pretty your code works, if the business doesn't go by it, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Interesting. Yeah. Any more follow points, Tanya?
Yeah, so for Flutter point of view, so currently Flutter have released two different types of rendering. There is one canvas kit rendering and other is HTML rendering. So build time only, you can just decide that if you want the HTML piece of your code to get compiled and be a part of your search engine or SEO, then you can just do a build, create a build using HTML rendering, and it will give you the advanced feature of browser. But that is still in, I think, development, because once you build, it is taking lots of time to run the application. So yeah, for future, I think they will be supporting the SEO part as well and other web related stuff as well.
I love to see. I love to see that. SSR is really important,
Yes.
and that's why we actually wins in that case.
Also, like what I think, which is more important for web development is, when I want to debug something, I need to see or I need to look at the DOM, what is happening with the DOM. I guess which is not there in the Flutter, and we really miss it. And I guess the ecosystem where Flutter is trying to replace the HTML and JS with the canvas. I guess I'm not sure how good community is going to accept it, because JS and HTML is like way long back invented and people are used to it. So yeah, that is one of the con for Flutter, I would say, Flutter Web.
Makes sense.
I think adding one point here, which is like, though Flutter Web works, but it still have many missing parts to it, which is like the libraries. So like when you are on React Native Web, there is one advantage, which is like you can use any React library you want, because even React Native Web transpiles to Division, PTEX. It's just a component library, right? So you can use any of the available web libraries, which is actually awesome. Uh, at Flutter, you don't have it. If you want a carousel, many libraries are available on React, which you can use on React Native Web just out of the box. And for Flutter, you are like, I don't have anything. I might need to build it on my own.
Makes sense.
I don't agree on this point, because I had a personal experience of missing a package from the React Native Web where we had to change our idea when we were hacking. So I'm not going to agree on this.
So yeah, so in conclusion, we can say that both the communities, they're trying, both of them are broken. But in some senses, React Native Web has been there for a little longer. It has a better compatibility with web compared to Flutter. But the future is bright. That's what you can say, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we need to give chance to a React developer to develop something. If Flutter takes over everything, then maybe their jobs are at risk.
I think one more big advantage is like with React Native Web, you have all the advantage of the bundlers, everything for the web part, which is like there is so much of things going around web, which is like just readily available out of the box with React Native Web because it is close to the native web.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the awesome part of it. With Flutter, you are like, okay, Flutter contributors will do, then we will have this part.
Yeah, it's the classic thing of like being something driven by a company versus being driven by a community.
Yeah.
And because I mean, Flutter, Google is pushing building their own apps, and it's centralized mostly. It's a community driven, but it's mostly like centralized at Google. That's what people say. Uh, I won't get into the political aspect of things, like how the polarization is, because I was on a Twitter space of React Native, and then I was hearing something totally different, which I don't want to get in. But anyway, let's move on. So, web is one. Related is desktop. So, what's your thoughts on like using these technologies on desktop?
See, having a same code base for each and every platform will really help, to maintain a project, because having a different code base for different platforms will really have a hard time to manage different issues on different platform. So I guess if we have a web, of course we can wrap those into an Electron project, and then we can publish it. But in a Flutter, if we have an app single code base which is running on different platform, Android, iOS, and as well as on desktop, so that's a plus point where you have single code base and you can maintain it very easily. So it will be a great plus to a team to ship the product very easily into the market.
And for that, we don't have to do external, like extra layer of setup. By default, Flutter framework supports that. So same piece of code without any external setup, it will run like create a desktop application for you.
Yeah. So I haven't personally done this thing with experiment with desktop application, but there are libraries available like React Native Windows, React Native macOS, I think. So yeah, we have support for that in React Native, but I haven't tried it out.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, the Microsoft team has been constantly working on that. I mean, with React Native Mac OS and the Windows support, and their team's application is always. I mean, it was built on Electron earlier. Now they have shifted to React Native Mac OS and Windows, and it's. I mean, we know the pain points of Electron, right? It takes up a lot of memory. Now that they have built it with Mac OS and Windows support, it is. I mean, the application come out great. So I think the support, because they have been working on it for a long time now. So now that I feel it is out there, it's good enough to use.
So my point would be here is like when we talk about desktop, right? I think it's a very nuanced phase, because like I think if you know that Windows has made ASP earlier, which was made to create desktop apps. Now they don't maintain it. They are now using the React Native thing. I think for the both other platforms here, React Native and Flutter, they give you great capabilities for building a UI. But when you try to go over it, then you are like, okay, there is something which is might not available here. That's where this comes things here that Microsoft is pushing React Native. That's why the good HDK support would be with React Native rather than on Flutter, because like Microsoft itself is pushing it. Otherwise, if it was driven by, it was a community project, I think with like React Native TV OS or something, you won't see much difference, because both platforms are just giving you to build UI and nothing more than it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, I'm more curious to know, like, for Flutter Windows development and Linux development, we have a widget library which is being designed by the Flutter team as well. So, do we have such libraries available for desktop development in React Native?
It's the same API which works on desktop. Actually, they have made the same API which works on the desktop. It's like out of the blue, you write "Hi, hello world," and it works there too. And the styling too, it just works out of the box. But again, like when you talk about cross-platform code sharing, we you would have Firebase. I think 90% of the apps would have Firebase. You don't have on desktop, right? Then you might need to noob it or something. So there would be every time a nuance where you are like, okay, we need to do something, tinker around it. It would never be 100% code sharing. It would be always like 70 to 80%. You need to touch the native world or some tinkering around.
Yeah, I would also like to answer Hasnain's question. So
Yeah.
that's where Flutter and React Native is different. Like React Native does not need to recreate those modules and those libraries when we want to support more platforms. But with Flutter, if you want to design on that platform, you have to rebuild it, the canvas. That's the difference.
But I guess, see, it is important to have those look and feel on the platform. Let's say if we have a Windows application, then we need to have a user to look and feel that yes, it's a Windows based
Makes
theme,
sense,
or
yeah.
so that is one important aspect as a
Yeah.
end user.
Yeah, so that is already available. in React Native, you need to just map the API because it uses the native widgets. That's the difference. Anyway,
Also, like answered one was like again, as I said, Microsoft is supporting it. Microsoft has one project named Fluent UI React Native, which works all the platform and give you the same UI of the main design system of Microsoft. So this where this support comes from the company who has been about the desktop. So
that reminds me of James. I was speaking to James from the Fluent team, and they want some integration of NativeBase with Fluent API. So maybe.
yeah.
Good stuff. Next question. I think this is similar to the last two questions. Like now we see a lot of problems between platforms and between these technologies, and we are somehow trying to navigate through and build our apps, cross-platform apps, right? Do you think there is still a comeback for web views and something like Ionic or Apache Cordova? This question was not there, but still, would love to hear.
Out of syllabus.
No, I guess I got a chance to work with Ionic before Flutter. So I was producing videos on Ionic before Flutter, and then Flutter came in, and I never looked back what's happening with the Ionic. So I don't feel there is a chance to if someone is like as a company, someone is going to pick Ionic because same the React Native, maybe the Expo is doing great thing over the cross platform. So as per my experience, I never went back and look at what's happening with the Ionic and Cordova. So I don't think so. There's a great chance of them to have a more application built into the marketplace.
But if we check all the boxes, because talking about SSR, talking about all those things, if we are going the web first approach, web is sorted, and then we are just solving for native, that mobile apps, and if we somehow solve it and like communicate the native APIs inside this, then probably I think there might be if the like 60 FPS performance issue is solved, then probably there might be a chance of that coming back.
Yeah, I think there's something to say.
Yeah, go ahead if you have.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one thing is web views never left mobile world actually. If you use any of the popular apps, you won't realize it that how much part of it is actually web views. Okay. Uh, Giving you an example, Kite. Kite has all of its onboarding on web actually. There's a reason behind it because like any onboarding on any app, it is very complex. It looks very simple to just tap on it or just tap on the name, but behind there are so much of nuance to it which keeps changing. And when you are on mobile, you can't just say ki, okay, there's a change, we will deploy it. You need to roll out updates, you need to do a sanity. There is so much of things. That's when many companies put many things behind a web view where they can change it instantly. Um, Swiggy uses web views. uh, every app, even we at Grow use web views, but you would never realize it because it's made so blended with the app that you won't realize that you went to a web view. Web views actually never left the mobile world.
Yeah, there's a comeback.
I think native script is it's not talked about much. I feel it is a very interesting framework, native script. Like it gives the rendering layer could be anything. It could be Vue, Angular, I think the React anything, and you can communicate to the native world with APIs. I think that's really great. Native script. I think that it never got the attention or blogs or talks around it. It never became the mainstream.
Yeah, native script is great.
I also have experimented with the native script, and it was great. Like I did it with the Angular back in 2014.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. But maybe I guess there is no community about it, and I guess that's where it's lacking behind.
You need $1 billion company for that. The two companies driving React Native and Flutter.
Yeah.
True.
Suresh?
On web views and other libraries like this thing, so they uses Chromium engine right inside. So there is performance issue as I have used earlier. So is this fixed now? In Grow, you are using WebView, right?
So we use web views, and so there is a difference that where we want to use web views. It's not like you can throw any part of your app in web views.
Yeah.
It's like some part you would realize, ki, okay, this is also user centric. This is like user would go to it, but not that much. But it is important. So that's where we are like, okay, maybe we can put this in web views. Many apps actually, it's one of the amazing things which I was unaware of, that many new features which comes to it, there are actually many of web views, not in Grow, but on different apps. So when you jinker on it, you can see it's a web view, because the button, it won't have a ripple effect. So there are many things that you can distinguish that it's a web view, but it's like so blended well with many popular apps, you won't even realize it. I think Swiggy is a great example.
Grocery part of Swiggy. It's 100% web view.
Yeah, you can see it, you can feel it, and now grocery part is just a full blown small app. It's like a full blown app. It's like it's completely web view. Small example of how powerful they are, but it depends on the team size how they can pull off, because it's not an easy task. Because they want the web pages to be served very quickly. There should be no white flashes. Depends on many factors.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you have to have some strict architecture around it. Otherwise, anyone can just jump in and start coding. You can't. They can't do that. I think.
Design system.
Design system.
So development around WebView, actually it's very difficult. So like we had one work the requirement that we have to create a Gmail application, and the internal application we have to like include all the WebView APIs. So customization, as he mentioned, that it needs a high skill to like work on the UI part of the WebView, because all the ripple effect and all the UI fill that you will be needing, there is no direct API open for that. You have to like go through the rendering engine and you have to like customize component at that level. So yeah, the development around it's like still maybe the community is not that much grown, or like we don't have those information like easily available. So
yeah.
If I remember it correctly, Tata 1mg is completely web view.
No, Tata 1mg. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Tata New is Flutter shell and then web views inside it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tata 1mg
That's so true.
has
Yeah.
many parts. Like I think it's completely web view. I don't know, but it has many web views.
Yeah.
so Tata New is actually
It's a
in
Flutter
web.
app. So we were. I was talking to the architect of that. So he was keen on using Flutter over React Native, and he was like, Flutter for mobile any day over React Native. And then they used WebView, and those WebView actually use React inside.
Yeah.
I guess I had an experience to use the Tata New app, and I guess throughout the app I only felt like the landing page was designed in Flutter, and if I click on any option on any category, it will open in WebView.
Yeah.
So I guess the only landing page was designed on Flutter. The rest of them is again like mix of React.
Even Paytm uses web views aggressively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so WebViews use React then. That's great. Moving on, I think let's talk about performance a little bit. There were a couple of talks on performance, but yeah, performance with React Native and performance with Flutter. Flutter claims 60 FPS. That's their marketing thing, right? 60 FPS. So let's start with React Native. How is the performance of React Native?
I mean, in React Native, we have always faced the issue with performance in terms of like whenever we have some kind of heavy lifting, we have to, and the main div is occupied. Because of that, the animation may be lagging, whatever it might be. So, I mean, that has improved a lot now. I mean, even the reanimated 3 library that has come out, that improves a lot of performance in terms of what are the issues that we are facing. So I wouldn't say that it has reached that potential that okay we would see that 60 FPS the performance that we get every time. But yeah, it is evolving a lot over the years. It has evolved a lot in terms of performance, and I mean the community is supporting a lot in terms of each and everything. Like even flat list, the issue that we had, right? The community or the organization Shopify came up with flash list. Similarly, there are a lot of community that are putting in a lot of effort in terms of improving the performance. So we are getting there, I would say.
Yeah, I totally agree with Shivraj. So we can't say that we have 60 FPS in all the components, but we can say it's usable. You can use React Native Web and it's super smooth, no problem at all. But with few of the components like scroll view and flat list, so we can see the performance show over there. But with the new architecture, we really had some hope with this thing. I haven't experimented with it, but with flash list, I have seen the demo and example code and all, and it looks pretty much promising to me. So the flat list issue, the flat list issue is solved with flash list. Other than that, um, we have to set. There are some coding patterns. So some patterns, if we follow, so we can get the most out of React Native. So we have to follow those as well in React Native. So as it's a declarative language, so we can't really say that anyone can use it in their way, and that causes some performance issue. And yeah, there's the things that are coming in my mind. So you guys.
At the same time, we have if we have a lot of heavy lifting that needs to be done, we have the advantage that we can shift it to, if I mean, for example, if it is a native animation or anything, we can shift that to the JS set or anyway, we can switch it out and get that kind of performance. It's just that we have to move to the native layer in that case.
You have to do that extra effort.
Yeah, extra effort.
I totally agree with what Suraj said. Like there are some coding patterns which needs to be followed to get best performance, right? So I guess Flutter promises on that, like 60 FPS, and yes, that is achievable in Flutter, and Flutter has achieved that because Flutter has given those widgets, especially those builders, what they say, because those builders are been designed for best performance to get rid of that janky loads or having those lags when we animate something. But again, on the screen, we need to follow some design principles as well. We cannot have 100 animations running at the same time. That will obviously hit your performance. So yes, it's a combination of what architecture of code you are writing plus what design system or design guidelines you're following. So yeah, that is where we need, even as a developer, you need to take care of what you are writing, which will eventually help you to get a better performance for your app.
And that's the thing for both the platforms,
Right.
be it Flutter or React Native. Okay.
So for React Native performance, it's quite funny because I work at Go for the same thing, and main thing about performance in React Native is like there are many problems which are actually not due to React Native but React itself, which is like it's so much of nuance of reuse callback, use memo. Everyone says ki, okay, you have a function, you use callback, use memo for that, and it turns up hurting the performance. So many times I think there are some problems. Many of the problems are on the JS side. For rest of the performance for animations and gestures, which are the libraries which already solves it. But when it's time to measure the performance, that's where things get really tricky. Just for the case, like recently, this last 3 weeks, I was building an in-house library at Grow to measure performance. We have a community packet named React Native Firebase Performance, on which you can start a trace on Firebase and stop it. But the problem with that API is that it's asynchronous in nature because of React Native, right? Now, if I want to measure the first paint of the screen, right? I can't block the main UI thread saying, okay, please wait till the trace starts, only then you can proceed, right? So that community package was blocking in the way. So we had to create an in-house package which doesn't return promises to devs, but are like silent functions. And I created like a small bridge to start a trace and to send over the data. So Detroit was a really tricky part, and that's where I feel the problem is, because like when you try to move a step big with React Native, you will feel okay. There is async. It can hurt performance, because we didn't want it to measure the performance. We ended up hurting the performance, right? So there is so much of, I think for this part, I feel that for someone to measure it, they need to know so much of things. Like, okay, there would be bridge. If I navigate to this page, there would be so much on the bridge. There's so much of things the developer needs to be aware of before making it. So I feel there is a lot of nuance on there.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it, like in Flutter also, it's not only the logical part that like by which you can achieve the 60 fps, so it also depend on the rendering and the platform that we are using. So it's a very open issue that in iOS still we can see that when we start the application at load time, we'll be seeing a jankiness. So although whatever logic we'll be writing, that is coming from the engine that where the Flutter is using and rendering all the canvas component. So there is some concept called shader engine, like which is a piece of code which have to run before iOS get compiled and like create visit in your application. So that piece of code highly depend on the engine and the device specification that you are using. As we know that all the devices also getting advancement, and ever since we are getting updates on devices as well. But Skia engine, the engine have to also keep up with all the APIs, with all the enhancement going on with mobile applications. So for that, they are released yet in preview mode only. They have created an Imperial engine which is directly communicating with device like internally, and they are coping up with the device enhancement as well. So in next phase is maybe the jankiness issue related to animation or I was scrolling that, like we know everywhere is famous in Twitter that okay, Flutter is still having this problem. So that is promising to solve these issues.
One more thing I want to point is like, though we talk about that React Native have good libraries to improve the performance, but all of them have so much of change. Even Flash List, If you go to documentation itself, it says that for the key prop you need to be very careful, right? So any of the things which comes to React Native, it's not like you can plug it. Whereas in Flutter, what I feel good is like I don't need to think about it personally. I don't need to think whether my code base will get this out of the box or not. It's just like okay, those awesome folks have done them. I just need to update it. I feel that's a great part of it.
Yeah, yeah. So fragmentation is an issue in React Native community for sure because of the community thing and Flutter like definitely makes a lot of sense. I think we've talked a lot negative about both the platforms. So next time for what was the like top two things maybe that's like really great about Flutter or React Native. So let's talk about that. Ruchika, you want to take it? The best part of Flutter and why you use Flutter every day.
Okay, so the first part, like it is very easy to create beautiful UIs and which will give you a native experience, like not exactly native experience, but it's very close to that experience. And the after deployment also the app is so smooth and so fast, so that will be I'll be giving +1 for Flutter. And when it comes to creating a complex widget, lots of animations and micro animations, so that is like the inbuilt widgets that is Flutter is providing. By using that, you can just get a 60 fps animation out of that. So yeah, so that will be my 2 points.
Ease of building and performance are the two top two things for you.
I guess why Flutter is being like personally why I used to like Flutter is because the way they have designed the widget and the naming conventions and the APIs they provide, which is like so easy to get along, and also the community and also the documentation what we have from the Flutter team. So yeah,
I'll give +1 to community as well, because we know the community is very active. So like they launched that wondrous app in Flutter 3.3 Viking, and I just tweeted that okay, this is the application, and because I have the iOS, I shared the iOS screenshot. Some people have used in Android and they shared a screenshot. Okay, in Pixel, I'm just stuck with Splash 10. Can anyone help me with that? And the same at like in half an hour only, the wondrous app guy who have worked, they created some build, they fixed that issue, and next day I'm getting an update. Okay, this is fixed. Now you can go ahead with and try into Pixel application. So
interesting. Community plus.
Community.
Okay, great. I have some mixed feelings for that, but I'll come back to that later.
Sure.
There is only one reason I love about React Native, which is money.
That's a good thing. Okay, so React Native developers get paid. Good.
There are plenty of jobs in the market. Okay, jokes aside, I feel one code push.
Code push.
A great capability which mobile lacks. Though it can be abused, but if you use it the right way, it's one of the powerful tools available. The second would be how much knowledge is like not knowledge around the things which are already available out of the box for the web or something, because it's all around JS. Many packages which are JS only can be used on React Native. So I feel really like okay, there should be something available. I don't need to make something on my own.
Yeah. So let's.
Yeah, firstly it's React. So we don't have to learn a new language. So APIs are same, declarative, and yeah, these are the most thing that we love. We love declarative languages, and we love, especially me, I love writing codes in functional, not in object-oriented pattern. So that's the main reasons I like.
Mudslinging.
So this is-
I guess Suraj, you have to deal with that because you know what's happening, what we are building, right? So you need to cope up with the oops.
Yeah, I mean, for me as well, because it's a JavaScript framework, and we can, I mean, if we learn React, we can directly jump into React Native. At the same time, I feel because React Native is, I mean, it's not limited in terms of, let's say, if we have a native package, if the support is not out there, I mean, even I can bridge it. It's not that I have to wait for someone to bridge it actually. I can just go ahead and tweak something and do that, and I can bridge it. At the same time, as you mentioned, code push is a huge thing. I mean, we have been using it from the beginning, and it's a huge, huge advantage over anything. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And to talk about community, we have React Native community.
I think one more part would be the tooling actually.
Tooling.
I think if someone has used Expo, I don't believe how good it is actually sometimes,
Yes.
because it's so magical that I just can scan the app and those things can actually be made in-house if the company wants it. Like it's just updating the bundle. So there is so much of things you can do around the JS part of it to enhance the developer experience. That's one of the things which I actually like. I think at Grow we were recently looking for every PR we make, we can have a scanner or something for which we scan it and there's something sort of exposed. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so I think we'll close the session, but just one last. I would love to hear about the future and your personal hot take. Would you use it? Would you not? And what's the next 1 year looks like for Flutter or React Native? Let's start with Prakash.
I think, I mean, a lot of things are happening in the React Native world. We have React Native architecture, as you mentioned earlier, right? And a lot of new things are coming as well. So, I mean, I feel this is the place where this is the year where React Native is evolving a lot, and it is very fast paced. So, I think I will be using a lot in the future.
And Flutter?
I have no idea about Flutter as much
You
as
want to give it a shot?
Definitely, I did try it out. I feel it is very good, but at the same time, I mean, what I feel is when I think about a React Native, I just can connect to it in terms of because I know React or anything. I don't connect to Flutter as much as I connect to React or React Native. That's why I chose.
Okay, comfort zone.
And I guess I want to add a point over there, and that's what we are trying to solve, like building, like pulling up the native-based same API to the Flutter, which where a web developers can feel like, okay, this is same as what we have done in.
A lot of things are coming in React Native, and the main thing that we are looking for is the new architecture and performance. And performance is the major thing that we are lacking over here. So if performance thing is fixed, most likely, so we are we'll be in very good place. And other than that, with React Native. Community is really doing great, and lot of the libraries are coming in, and we can build now. We have libraries for video rendering and web RTC. All the things are already coming in. So web API to React Native API, we can easily migrate. So that is the one thing.
Universal
Aspect of this thing, yeah. And I would also like to try out the Flutter web version if it's stable.
I'll help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually I started my journey with React Native, as we know, and I created a lots of application like around 3 years back, and after that Flutter came. So at that time I was like, okay, Flutter is learning from React Native, and all the APIs that after using Flutter, it's like both the platform are similar, just they have framework expect different. But today, when I was going through all the updates that is going around with React Native, then like I can easily correlate both the framework, that both the framework are actually learning from each other, and like related to performance or web or desktop web, whatever it is. I think all the APIs are available in both the application, both the community is growing. So for me, I think I can see future in both the framework, depending on the advantage or technology, whatever the developer will use. That showcase the technology.
Interesting.
I guess it's not a good for developer to stick with one technology, because you never know when it is going to fall down or when it is going to raise. Yeah. So I guess it's always good to try out different frameworks or whatever the different frameworks available for the same technology. I personally also learn about React and React Native because we never know when in future what is going to come, right? But currently, I see Flutter marketing team is doing great stuff, and Flutter is going to have that thing happening because of community and Google. So I guess Flutter have a bright future, and well, as I said, it should not be one side. As a Flutter developer, I need to keep myself known about what's happening in React and React Native as well, so that we can have a different framework.
Nice.
Okay, so before giving my opinion here, one thing which I want to say is whatever the framework is, one thing which I feel that with many folks and developers I talk with, they are like which one to pick, whether to React Native, Flutter, or Native for building the mobile app. And I'm like, just take your mindset of building the mobile app. Okay, like your mind should work as a mobile dev rather than a React Native, Flutter, Kotlin Swift dev. There's a big difference here because all of these things are just tools, right? If, for example, here instance, when I work here at Grow, there is Kotlin code, there is Swift code, there's too much of nuance. Okay, and if something's in the production is like, okay, we need some help, and there's no one around. I'm not like, okay, I don't know Kotlin, I don't know how the native world works. You just need to see how these things are working, because there would be a screen, there would be a component which is displaying, there would be a mechanism to show the cache data and make the API call. The basics are same over the all web and mobile platforms. I think just keep the basics right. Just think like a mobile dev rather than a framework or library dev. Yeah. First point here. Now for React Native, I feel in the coming 1 or 2 years, React Native is actually, I feel, going to change a lot. One, because even the new architecture is out, it's very fun to talk about it, but actually no one has used it apart from Facebook, because you would have hundreds of libraries which are not migrated yet. Firebase, which every mobile app depends on, hasn't been migrated. Camera hasn't been migrated, and there is no word on it when it will be migrated. So there is, and no company can go like, okay, we will migrate this on our own, right? Though it's out, it would, I think, take a year at least for a big giant to test it out. So before it's just talking about it. It's just talking about, okay, Fabric is great, but nothing to see. Okay, it's improving something, right? Next is like the React Native folks. I think there is a many platform vision which is already talked about, and if you see, they are planning to replace yoga, which I am terribly afraid of, because I don't want my styles to be disturbed and I don't want to rewrite them. And there is no word what's going to be around it, whether there would be a new styling system into React Native. There is no word, there is like, okay, the yoga is going to be replaced. So I think with this 1 or 2 years, React Native is going to change a lot. It would be a different framework, I feel, after 1 or 2 years, to be very honest. There is so much things coming up, I think, around accessibility. There is some open discussions around React Native for SSR. There is so much things coming around, and it would be something very different in the coming years. For Flutter, I feel it is actually doing really great, because when I feel like to create a good app in React Native, you need to be aware so much of nuances, like how it works under the hood. You don't end up like choking the bridge. With Flutter, it's like it's brainless actually. Like I just need to follow the docs, copy paste the code, and out of the box it will work great. Like in React or in React Native, you are like, okay, I got a bad memo here. Let's remove it. So that's what I like Flutter actually. It's like it's so brainless to work with. So brainless that, okay, write a code and it will at least give me good performance just out of the box. There would be some issues, but that are tech level. Every framework, every library has some issues, but it's like how what's the probability of facing that issue? With, I think, with React Native it's much more. You need to use reanimated. With Flutter, it's like, okay, we have a in-house library, use that.
Makes sense, yeah. I think great points and great conclusion by everyone. The first one that I'll take home is that don't just rely on something, one single piece of technology. Always have like multiple things. Also, that they said that get your basics right, be it Kotlin, Swift, and or maybe Flutter or React Native, whatever it is. So yeah, good stuff. The future is bright for both the technologies plus the other technologies as well. So yeah, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, much less name calling and much less hair pulling than I would have liked. But then I think it was much more information than action. Now, before we finish, I would love to give a huge shout out to all of the people who made this possible. Obviously, all of you guys who attended and made sure that the speakers had somebody to look at when they were talking, also to inspire them and motivate them. Adrika, Sana for organizing this, and Rishabh and Bhushan obviously for being the pillars behind making this happen. Sanket is obviously always there. That's pretty pretty much the reason we have a meetup group, we have a community, we have all of these events that we do. And also, last but not the least, we have the OG, Digvijay in the house. Pretty enormous shoes to fill, Digvijay. But I hope I lived up to the expectations. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you so much for coming. And before we leave for pizza, I know the door is open, you guys must have smelled already, but then we would love to invite all of the speakers and the panel members to come up on the stage. We would just need one picture, then we would need another one with all of the attendees as well. Then you're free to go splurge over there. Okay, all of the panel members and the speakers, can you please come up and